good afternoon, good evening, good morning. My name is Dr. Thomas Selover, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to our webinar on motherhood as the key to establishing a peaceful world. And we'll be discussing this theme of motherhood from many aspects, including the mother of peace, Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon. So we are pre-recording this so that you'll be able to hear our international speakers all at once. And so let us go ahead with the main part of the program. Our first speaker today, we are delighted to welcome Ms. Carolyn Handschin-Moser. Carolyn is the director of the Women's Federation for World Peace International Office for United Nations Relations globally. And let me mention that Women's Federation for World Peace is founded by Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon. Carolyn has been training and leading advocacy and partnership programs at UN offices since 1997. So she is very seasoned and experienced. This year, she was re-elected as president of the NGO Committee on the Status of Women at the United Nations in Geneva, aiming to strengthen cohesion among women activists and to build partnerships with the government missions and also with UN entities in Geneva. A World of Peace, A Woman's Way is a leadership curriculum that she co-created, and it is being taught on several continents. Carolyn is the editor and contributing writer for several publications, and she speaks publicly on issues related to rights and protection of women and girls, the role of education in peace and security, and engagement of women, youth, and family for peace building and for development. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Ms. Carolyn Handschin-Moser. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Selover. On this eve of the beginning of a new year, I wish everyone good health and really a good start, strong start to this upcoming year in which there will be surely so much going on that we can influence. I've prepared a PowerPoint, which I will just now share with you. And there you go. And so the title I chose is Women's Leadership for a New Era, the missing link that is hiding in plain sight. And I just put this little quote on the first page because I thought it interesting when I was researching on from some of the UN websites, some different things that I'll be talking about in a moment. And one of the quotes that I found the most important, actually, they didn't even attribute a name to it. It is, it was just one NGO attendee at one of their events. And this quote, "Women, peace, and security is about preventing war, not about making war safer for women." So this is the idea that is meaning that the focus is away from just women as victims or even away from just women, but actually women for the sake of the world, women for the sake of peace. And maybe it takes someone, let's see, I gotta make sure I can go to the next, yeah. It takes someone at the grassroots to be able to actually say it like that, I think. So I have to move something around here. So just a few simple statistics. So women's participation increases the probability of a peace agreement lasting at least 15 years by 35%. So this is just a few random thoughts, actually. These are from the UN Women website. Analysis of 40 peace processes since 1990. In cases of strong influence of women, an agreement was almost always reached. We know that is not always true, or even almost always true in general. And conflict affected communities that experience the most rapid economic recovery are those where women are more empowered. So these UN Women has done a lot of work really to come up with these statistics. And so to go a little bit deeper, what is the dynamic that women bring that make that possible? That, you know, so women have a broadened sense of issues, not just getting the agreement on paper. They're looking at the root causes. They're applying creative early warning measures when they're, you know, when they have financial support. They tend to use that on family needs or even community needs. And they, in general, seek broader community involvement over time, which are not necessarily things that your peace agreements are all taking into consideration. Also, women tend to feel a pressure to reach an agreement and not to give up easily because they're all the time realizing that the effect that it has, the effect that the state of war has on their children and on their communities, on their livelihoods. So where else do women lead with such wisdom? In their families. Women do it without having been taught to do that, because they sense those kind of needs and they can feel what is the right thing to do. Again, driven by this sense of protection for their family, the sense of the well-being of their family, which means not only their family, but the surroundings that their family live in have to also be healthy. So saying to the United Nations and governments and all of us, should we not go beyond measuring just what women do better or differently, which is kind of a thing to do now, but why can't, let's look at why women tend to do that and be like that, and let's build on that. So women tend to think and act in those ways because of their experience as mothers. They were designed, and this is maybe going a step further than any UN, studies might go, but that would be my conclusion, that they were designed to be able to nourish, guide, protect, sacrifice for groups of people, often small people, who would be completely dependent upon them. And they also prioritize the knowledge that would change so much this understanding would prioritize if we could prioritize that knowledge, this could change so much in the lives of girls and women. So just a quick look at some of our events. We have a theme, a series of events: no peace without women, no more wars. We've had several events at the United Nations. We have had them at the Parliament in Kosovo. I put this one picture on the right in the middle because actually this was our event, Women's Federation and the International Association of First Ladies for Peace in Kosovo. And the room is filled with women, but actually the men all went to the front seats and they were listening so intently. It was all women speakers, actually. It was really quite a great experience. So just maybe one more point about the kind of the global situation. Shockingly, the global military expenditure is $2,443 billion in 2023, which I mean, no one can imagine that kind of amount. But we understand, because we're talking about how things could be different if women were leading. That's the theme of this webinar. We know women prefer spending on education and health. And we know by many statistics now assembled that they take stricter lines on corruption. Do mothers, just a simple question, do mothers invest in arming their children? When their children are fighting on the street with another child with a rock in their hand, do they line up piles of rocks for them, bigger rocks for them to throw? No, automatically mothers tend to see it's important this stops, take the rock away from the child help them to come together and to understand how they can work this out, because also the mother understands that they will be playing with each other the next day or living with each other the next day, and you have to work things out. One example I wanted to make of just the way women work, a good friend of mine, a professor who's living in Cyprus and who has come to some of our Women's Federation event, Middle Eastern peace conferences over the years. She worked together, she's from Cyprus, and she had a friend, became a friend who was the wife of the leader of North Cyprus. And they worked together to create this women's bicommunal network where they were so creative to the point that UNDP got involved, and she went to Johns Hopkins to report about it. I think even finally got some funding. There was one project called Hands Across the Divide, and even they brought their children with them. Even 15 years later, I met the child who had experienced that with their parents at that time, and it was amazing. I really felt that child was so much affected by this experience. They also had something called the Peace Bus, which was this incredible project to reconnect former co-villagers before the 1974 separation and to bring them together. They had been neighbors, but they hadn't seen each other for 20 years, more than that. And so they had an opportunity, and it was, I think, a very exciting kind of experience for them. So I wanted to just talk about social systems a little bit. So there are, of course, we know about patriarchy. We hear it talked about all the time, but there is also a kind of matriarchal or matrilineal leadership in Asia that I experienced when I went to this conference of IAFLP, in Palau. And there were 8 or 10 first ladies from the Asia Pacific. And I spent my time going around talking to them, asking them, so what is it like to live in this kind of a society? I was trying to see, how are they? What kind of leaders are they? And the majority of them, I think all of them that I talked to, they explained to me that even though they have that position, they are so much aware of the importance of keeping, that their husbands feel dignified in their own positions, and that family peace is so important that they really don't claim their role. And I felt like this is very, very, very interesting that even in that role, they use this kind of motherhood or that kind of concern for the whole. So patriarchy is also something that is really, it's kind of, everything is blamed on patriarchy, but is the point that that we are failing in our vision towards global family because motherly strength and concern has been left out of the leadership paradigm? That's what I tend to think. And so I myself have worked together with other Women's Federation women to design a curriculum that talks about familiarchy. That is, as you can read here, it is an intertwined network of love that seeks collaboration and development for the other and for the greater good. So if I can just close with this thought, there are a few more slides, but so if we want to talk about expectations for a bright new era, we have to begin with an honest analysis of where we are now. There was actually became a good friend of mine, a Buddhist monk from France, who we would meet at UPF conferences sometimes in France and in Korea. And he came up to me one time at the end of a conference and said, Carolyn, and I had spoken at that conference, he said, Carolyn, the future is in your hands. The future is in the hands of women. And it depends upon how well, if you rise up to be leaders, how well you are able to protect the dignity of men as you rise. So I will close with that. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your wisdom, sharing the wisdom of women's leadership And we've seen many specific examples of how that can be promoted and how important it is in the world, not only event by event, but in changing the overall paradigm and expectation of women's leadership everywhere, and based on motherhood, as you said. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
So I'd like to turn now to our second speaker, who is Dr. Grace Selover. Dr. Grace Selover is a member of the National Education Advisory Team of Family Federation, USA, and earned her master's degree at Unification Theological Seminary in New York, as well as her doctorate at Sunhak Universal Peace Graduate University in Korea. Her dissertation explored emerging women's leadership in the Unification Church in America, foundations, challenges, and opportunities. Since the unification movement worldwide is experiencing and benefiting from the leadership of Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, Grace feels it is an appropriate time to explore issues of women's roles, functions, and leadership, both in the family and the church and in the wider world, in light of Heavenly Parents' dual, that is especially Heavenly Mother, characteristics, attributes, and qualities. So let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Grace Selover. Dr. Selover, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thomas, for your kind word and the genuine expression. I really appreciate that. My title is Emerging Women's Leadership. So let me share with you my slides. Yeah, throughout the human history, the task for men and for women have been divided naturally and undoubtedly through the division of power, knowledge, and the class status, and fame. Gradually, a male-dominant society emerged. In the past, the women have been intimidated by the pursuit of a higher education or striving for a leadership position, fostering the belief that women are in general not physically, mentally, or emotionally designed to work or lead in a man's world. As a result, many women were convinced and began to believe that they deserve a lesser status and even denied their own womanhood. From the Bible, we know that the first woman ancestor was tempted by the archangel, and even since women have been victimized, women have become oppressed to such an extent that they do not know what their proper position is. And this is about gender issues that are related to expectation. So we are going to talk about what the women's facing, the challenges and the struggles. Women surely experience different kinds of struggles than what men experience. And also the way women express themselves and how they are viewed are different from how men express themselves and how they are viewed. For instance, if a woman is competent, she does not appear to be nice enough. But if she appears to be nice, she is not considered to be less, then she is considered to be less competent. If a woman defends herself, she is often considered to be aggressive or ambitious as a negative sign. But when a man does the same, he would be considered to be confident and strong as a positive sign. This kind of stereotype in gender perception of women easily results in women's loss of self-esteem and disempowerment. Unfortunately, the society already has this kind of gender-biased expectation for how women should behave, which is different from the expectation that is existing for men leaders. No doubt, women face challenges and struggles in their homes and communities. Are these challenges and struggles derived from social problems? Are they an indication of some form of discrimination? For God created man and woman equally, and therefore they ought to be treated fairly and justly. However, it probably would take women extra efforts to be more communicative, interacting and networking in order to be understood and to be treated as their male counterparts are treated. When encountering these challenges, such as the perception of not being qualified, not being recognized, not being accepted, what do women do? Some may lose their self-confidence, lose hope, look down upon themselves, and feel self-pity and self-misery. In a male-dominated environment, they are confused, losing the value of themselves. They could only follow the orders that they are given, but they do not know that they have choices to make. That is why Mother of Peace, Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, has disclosed and emphasized about the dual characteristic of God. That God has masculine and feminine aspects. That is the Heavenly Father side and Heavenly Mother side. This means that women can acknowledge God and acknowledge the existence of Heavenly Mother, and that woman can resemble God's divine femininity. And women also have the divine nature, just like men do. Women, therefore, knows that women also can be understood and liberated and empowered by God's feminine divinity to lift up their families and communities. Women can guide their families as the expression of God's love and peace because they have inherited God's love and heart and demonstrated that divine feminine love of God through their empowered leadership. That is why those women who have been inspired by Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon are saying that now I'm not alone. I feel confident. I feel empowered. I am a daughter of God. I feel loved. I feel the grace of Holy Spirit. They feel that they are deeply connected with the Mother of Peace and recognize her as a woman leader. In connecting with her, they feel like a breath of fresh air. They experience a whole new level of respect and love from True Mother. Even women with different religious backgrounds, such as Buddhist women and Muslim women, they are associated with the unification movement, have the experience of connecting with True Mother, who is the substantial embodiment of the divine femininity of God. And they feel peaceful and natural. And most of all, they feel their worth in the bosom of our Heavenly Parent. Women need to know that they are meant to manifest God's divine femininity in childbearing and life nurturing. The childbearing and life nurturing qualities that God grants a woman suited perfectly with her spirit and body, enable her to care, encourage, inspire, lift up others, and bring about a wholesome, healthy, and harmonious relationship with her surroundings, a principle the woman's character and personality could resemble and manifest Heavenly Mother's divine femininity. That is the essence of woman's feminine divinity. The feminine aspect of God enhances and supports women's role in the community. Not only can they nurture the needy, embrace the discouraged and the lost, reach out to the weak and the disabled, comfort the isolated and unappreciated, Together with men in the community, they are the agents to bring positive change, cooperation, and a team spirit and the dynamics to create a more balanced, collaborated, and complementary environment. Women need to know their unique, sacred, and noble position as mother, wife, daughter, and sister. Among all this, the role and the position of being a mother is the most important and most challenging in life. Motherhood is the most essential and crucial, not only in home, but also in a larger community. Therefore, motherhood should be universally identified, appreciated, honored, and praised. At this point in our human history, women have finally been awakened and can connect with the divine domain of motherhood. And this is what we are going to share about, and we have shared some already about some of these points, most of this. It is liberating and it is awesome that women can realize that they need to rise up, not because they demand equality or freedom, but because they are empowered by that divinity of God's femininity, because they realize that they too have the potential that is great and beyond themselves. By connecting with Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, they feel their self-worth is restored. Their self-confidence is lifted up. They say that now they can experience the Mother God, God as Mother, who helps them to take the initiative to face struggles and overcome barriers, and support each other with the sense of belonging, the sense of acceptance, the sense of being recognized in their families and communities. Moreover, to help them to create their family to be the school of love and peace. So let us to connect with them. I cannot see this, connect with the Mother of Peace and be proud of our true mother, the Mother of Peace, one Oma, the only begotten daughter. And thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Grace Selover, for opening out the importance of Heavenly Mother and also the example of Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon in inspiring women to greater heights of leadership. So we're very grateful for your sharing with us.
Thank you.
Now let us turn to our third speaker, who is Dr. Yeunhee Chang. Dr. Yeunhee Chang is a second-generation member of the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, who was born and raised in Canada and is married with 5 children. She did specialized studies in marriage enrichment at the Unification Theological Seminary and earned her Doctor of Ministry degree from Sunhak Universal Peace Graduate School in Korea. Yeunhee served at the Family Federation American headquarters, as well as at the Korean International headquarters, and has worked with various providential organizations, including the Hyojeong Culture Department in Korea. She is now a lecturer and researcher, specializing in the theology of the only begotten daughter and true parents' teachings. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Yeunhee Chang.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this webinar. Dr. Selover, actually, you were my advisor for 3 years.
My pleasure and honor.
My doctorate, yes, it was my honor too. And anyways, when I heard about the topic of this webinar, motherhood as the missing link to a new era, I immediately remembered something that True Mother, she said about the time when I read this when I just had my daughter, my first child. And she said She said, we must fulfill the mission of a mother rather than the mission of a daughter. And I have to tell you, I want to share something from my own personal experience and also from the experiences of other mothers. And, you know, I actually became a real human being after I had my first child. And it's because I realized that I really was not such a compassionate or empathetic person. And I think right now, in order to help our communities, we need a lot of compassion, a lot of empathy, a lot of interest and care in what's going on in our communities. And I just want to share a small story about when I first brought my daughter home from the hospital, and I was nursing her. And while I was nursing her, I do believe I had some kind of spiritual experience where I was able to, all of a sudden, I just started crying. My husband thought that maybe I was going through some kind of hormonal changes because I was breastfeeding for the first time. But I remember thinking, starting to really feel, as I was nursing my daughter, looking at her, I started to think about all of the babies around the world who were not able to experience being in the embrace of a mother and being able to be nursed by a mother. And I remember just, I don't know why I was feeling those emotions, but I started to feel the great sadness of these children who could not have that opportunity. And then I started to wonder why my daughter, what made her so lucky to be able to have that kind of experience? And why was she the lucky one to be able to be embraced by a mom when there were so many other children around the world who couldn't have that experience? And from that moment, my feelings for other children completely expanded beyond just my daughter. And so I feel like I became a real human being. I was able to feel something that I never felt when I looked at other children. And of course, you know, as I was living in this community in Korea, which is kind of more, it's a special community. I always call it the Mecca of our movement. There's many members here and who shared the same values. And while I was, after I had, you know, the rest of my children, you know, people were telling me, you're a super mom, and how are you able to work full time, and how are you able to raise your children and also study towards trying to get your degree? But I was, since I was living in Korea, I observed that there are many other families who are not family from the FFWPU membership, and they had one child. So, you know, Korea has, the birth rate is probably one of the lowest birth rates in Korea, throughout the world. And, but I was able to observe that there were other mothers in our community who had 5 children. I wasn't the only one. I could find at least 10 mothers in this area, and then, you know, a lot more around Korea. And I had the opportunity to interview around 8 of those ladies because I just wanted to know why they wanted to have more children, why they had so many, and I wanted to see how they were living their life. And I came to understand that these mothers weren't just at home raising their children and just taking care of their own children. They were actually very active in their church community and also school community. And they were also working full time, just like their husbands. And so I was pretty amazed by that because at that time I thought I kind of had, I was crazy living this life, trying to get my degree. And my youngest at that time was only maybe 1, not even 1 year old. So, you know, I came to realize that the women who had who were mothers, and they had more than 3, 4, 5 children, were actually more involved in wanting to try to create a better community. And so, you know, one of the best examples, you know, of to me, of course, is True Mother, because she had 14 children, and she's lived a public life her entire life, and she's been trying to, you know, create an environment, a safe environment, a harmonious environment for not just her own children, but also for the members, and also for the international community, and trying to be an example and a role model for that. And just to give you a small description of the effects that being a mother has had in some of the work. One of the main works that's taking place here where I'm living, I want to share about so the outreach right now that's going on here regarding the reunification of North and South Korea. And we're really trying to get this area, this region of Kapyeong really excited, and also to be able to, and also be educated about why we need the reunification of North and South Korea. And actually, instead of trying to witness a lot of about our own ideology or our teachings, a lot of the young people from a lot of the international families and in this area have been going out to do volunteer work and helping the towns here with their farming work, and even going out and giving elderly massages. And these are children from the mothers from international families, from like the Japanese mothers, mothers from the Philippines, and they've really gone through a lot while they've been living in here in a different culture, trying to adapt to a new culture, learning a new language, and also in terms of Japanese mothers, you know, they've had to overcome the historical barriers between, you know, the Japanese and Korean wars. So there have been decades of stories of suffering and persecution, but these mothers were able to endure and remain in their situation despite all of the suffering that they've received, and able to overcome their situation by really loving and serving their husbands' families. And that love and that example has been passed down onto these children now, who are working together to help with the education and the bringing together of the Korean people here right now. And I believe that that example has a lot to do with Dr. Hak Ja Han, a True Mother, and her, and what she's done throughout her life. She's, yeah, so I think that motherhood is essential in trying to build a community of harmony and love. And it's not just talk. It's about really going out and embracing and being compassionate and sharing and helping. And so I think that mothers are the ones that are teaching that at home and showing that at home.
Thanks.
Okay, well, I'm done.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yeunhee Chang. This is a delightful selection of messages today on our webinar, from the very wide-ranging to the very personal. It's also intergenerational and shedding many different kinds of light on the critical importance of women's leadership and women's wisdom, women's education, for all of us, also all of us men, to take note and be aware. So now I'd like to invite our three panelists to be able to dialogue with each other a bit. We've looked at different aspects of the wide issue of women's leadership and a little bit about the role of Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon in that as well. And in light of the above, if there's something that you as a speaker particularly want to add, we have a little time now. So if I may, let me turn Carolyn to you first. Is that all right?
Okay. I thought it was going to be spontaneous, but okay.
Oh, let it be spontaneous,
No.
however
Yes.
you like.
Okay. No, anyway, first of all, thank you to both speakers, because I find it, sometimes it's amazing how complementary these combinations can be without even realizing beforehand, actually, how we help each other. I am also a mother. I'm a mother of 7 children. And
Wow.
so I definitely always felt that, yeah, it's like this kind of adage that if you want something done, give it to someone that's like the busiest person you already know. That's not
Yeah.
exactly the quote, but it is actually true. We find ways to manage things and prioritize things. And I think every time I would go to the United Nations and I would sit through Human Rights Council sessions and I would hear, also in tears at the beginning, you have to kind of put up some kind of barrier after a while, hearing all these atrocities. But I would always go home to my children at the end of the day. We had au pairs from all over the world, which were like an additional child usually. And we would, this connection between the work you do, your environment, your life. Also, it's not just about our relationship with our children, it's the relationship with husband too. I think there are all these kind of dynamics that really help us to be leaders, the kind of leaders that we're talking about. We need
Yes.
for the future, who are seeing the world as the goal is global family, easily referred to, but actually not so much understood, in fact, by many who even say that. But in reality, that is the solution, actually, when we can become kind of sensitive enough to each other, as we have learned in our families growing up, or not learned, but realized, what we were missing. And as we have tried to pass on to our own children and making a harmony with our husbands or wives, it's really all so interconnected. And yeah, maybe I will stop with that.
Yeah.
Please feel free to spontaneously respond to that wonderful opening. Yeunhee or Grace?
It's well, it's true. I mean, just from the beginning of what you said, yeah, well, actually, I think there is a reason why, even though you have the most busiest person ends up getting more responsibilities, because you become so, is the word affluent? You just know how to do it well because you've been doing it at home. And yeah, but it's for myself too. My husband, it's definitely my husband. And not just my husband, I'm able to do all the things that I do because I've received so much help also from my parents-in-law. And it's definitely a community thing, for a mother to be able to, go beyond the family, to do things. Right now, in society, we need lots of help. And I've been lucky with that. I've been very lucky with that. So yes, to be a good mother, we need lots of support.
Yeah,
lots of support.
Grace, how about you?
Yeah, it is so true. I feel like that, first of all, in the family level, you see your family members 24/7. So, and as for a woman, the most close person, the woman related is their husbands. So I find out from my life learning experience that to know my spouse, to know my husband, to appreciate him, and also be able to see his weakness when we met on the day one, to consider that weakness as a strength to me, and in a genuine and sincere way, to take and twist that. I mean, not to just to have different perspective, see that strength as see that weakness as my strength, which I am lacking, and to be able to appreciate and to be able to honor, and that's so important, and to make that as part of a complementarity between the couples, and as long as that relationship is secure and settled and firm, then the family dynamic can change for better and for good, all in and out. So then now, of course, my relationship with my husband has been, we've been married for decades, but now I feel like I come to a point now we relate to our adult children. And that unconditional love is something we learn as being parents. Also, we learn from God, that's who has been unconditional for us. And the Bible was saying that we love because God loved us first. That's so true. God loved us first. God showed us his and her unconditional love. Therefore, we is trying our best to be able to offer the unconditional love to our children, especially because children, as they grow up, they become adults, they have their opinion, they have their own will, they decide what to do, and they are in this earthly world of which you have so much different dynamic, different influences, good and bad. Both of them are bad, negative, satanic, not from heaven, not very heavenly. So it takes a lot of effort for a parent, especially a mother, to really be able to pray hard and bring them closer to God. So, and the mother is the one feels in depth. Mothers are the ones take initiative, take that as their own burden on their shoulder in terms of relate to children, bring children back to God and closer to God. So the mothers are playing such an important role in the family, especially kids are grown up, mothers are still responsible for their spiritual life. That's why I think I share too much. Thank you.
Can I add something about that? Just something else. I didn't get to 2 slides, but can I just show my last one, because it actually has a photo on it that I wanted to, and then say something about it. But some of the elements, some of the qualities that we learn in leadership in our families are like so coveted in society, in fact. And let me just quickly, this one and this. So actually on the upper right, that's my family. It's a few years ago, but it was one of the better ones at Christmas time. But these other 2 photos are my role in my sort of leadership role as president of this NGO Committee on the Status of Women. And how I became leader was definitely not because I was the most brilliant or the most educated or knew the most about human rights, or because I learned as I went. And when I first went to the UN, really I was watching and listening and serving and taking, online courses and things, or just sitting in on courses. But the point, what got me elected as president of this committee, which is quite a prominent committee, was because I understood the point about helping others to promote the best of themselves. This committee is, it is full of judges and lawyers and ex-United Nations officials, and it's actually a committee of NGO organizations with ECOSOC status, about 35 of them internationally. And over the years, I can humbly or proudly say I surely was the best in helping them to make peace among themselves, because the most difficult point was that they wouldn't listen to each other because everybody was so knowledgeable and ambitious. And just the dynamic also made it not so nice working together. And in fact, you don't get very far either when that is the dynamic. So actually in this lower picture was at an event we just held in October with the Deputy Director of UN Women, the head of the UN. You know, I'm in the middle here as president of this committee, but frankly, so humbled. And this is all civil society, NGO leaders from all across our region, from California to Russia, in Geneva. And it's, you know, to me, it's sort of like a miracle that I somehow went from being the outcast, the most persecuted, to somehow, just by exercising some simple kind of taking care of people around me, actually recognizing their greatness, not being intimidated by it or trying not to be, but trying to help them, you know, each have their platform and do things together. So it's, yeah.
Wonderful. So I think we will need to wrap here. We've heard from 3 wise and very public-minded mothers who are also eloquent speakers and very active in promoting peace in various ways, and not only in the family, but also in our wider society. So I would like to close here with gratitude for each of our speakers and for all that you've shared, that we carry that with us into the new year. And I'd also like, on behalf of all of us together, to wish a wonderful, happy new year to Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, the Mother of Peace. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful new year.
Thank you.
In heaven's blessings.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Christmas.